Hello people and welcome to the Counterfactual Stories YouTube channel. In this episode we will talk about the rematch of the century, and that is the match between the former world chess champions Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. That was happened in Yugoslavia, actually Montenegro, back in 1992. So stay tuned, don't forget to subscribe, and let's continue. After disappearing from public view for 20 years, Robert James Fischer returned to play a chess match with Boris Spassky in 1992. At the time of the return match, Fischer was 49 years old, Spassky was 55, and was ranked 101st in the world and had a rating of 2560. They came to the town of Sveti Stefan, a resort of the coast of Montenegro, 110 kilometers from the civil war in Bosnia and 2,200 kilometers from besieged Sarajevo. Fischer played despite United Nations sanctions against Yugoslavia and a warning from the United States Treasury Department, which threatened him with severe penalties for playing. The prize fund was $5 million, of which the first player to win 10 games will receive a $3,650,000, and in the event of a 9-9 tie, Fischer will keep his title as undefeated champions of the world. There would be no adjournment. The match sponsor was Jezdimir Vasiljevic, president of Yugo-Scandic Bank and a crony of Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic. The match arbiter was Lothar Schmidt, who had performed the same function 20 years earlier in Iceland. Eugenio Torre, grandmaster from the Philippines, served as a Fischer's second, while Spassky had Borislav Ivko as the second. On September 1st, 1992, Fischer gave his first press conference in 20 years. When asked about the reaction to the threats by Washington, Fischer took out a letter from the Treasury Department and spat on it. He accused Kasparov and Karpov of playing prearranged matches and accused Karpov and Korchnoi of the same. Spassky supported the opinion by pointing out the finish of the 19th game of the 1990 match in Lyon. When asked about his reputation as an anti-communist, Fischer said, "Soviet communism is basically a mask for Bolshevism, which is a mask for the Judaism." Asked later about his apparent anti-Semitism, he said, "I'm definitely not anti-Arab, okay?" He accused the Soviets of keeping his royalties from his book My 60 Memorable Games and said that there would be no possibility of a match with Kasparov unless the royalties were paid. On September 2nd, 1992, the New York Times published an editorial. Headline was Bosnia's Tragedy and Bobby's. Think of Bosnia overrun by Serbian-backed militia, then think of the chess genius Bobby Fischer violating United Nations sanctions and decency itself, to play a chess match for profit in Serbia against old rival Boris Spassky. The contrast reeks of closeness, not to mention disregard for international law. The match also violates President Bush's executive order forbidding Americans to do business in Yugoslavia. The Yugoslav entrepreneur Jezdimir Vasiljevic is trying to recast the match as a charity event by pledging to donate $600,000 to the refugee relief. This changes almost nothing. With its lucrative revenues from sponsor fees and television rights and its purse of $5 million, the match is a business venture, pure and simple. Mr. Fischer captivated chess enthusiasts and ordinary citizens everywhere when he defeated Mr. Spassky to become world champion 20 years ago. Today, he embarrasses the world. Asked about federal ruling forbidding him to play, Mr. Fischer held up the notice and spat on it. If he plays, he deserves prosecution under the law. That could mean a $250 fine and 10 years in jail. That would also be another sad episode in a strange career. Personal problems have long overshadowed Mr. Fischer's talents. He was stripped of the world title in the 1975 because he declined to defend it. Eccentric and reclusive, he became a member of an extremist religious sect, then an ardent purveyor of anti-Semitism dogma. He hasn't played in public for 2 decades. But eccentrics too are subject to the law. If Mr. Fischer plays, it's only the right to make him pay. That was the article of New York Times written back in the 1992. The match was the first chess event to use the Bobby Fischer chess clock. The clock had been patented by Fischer in the US in 1989, but a working model had never been constructed. A clock was made for the event in a working time of 5 days. The purpose of the clock was to ensure that a player always had at least 1 minute for the next move. Time scrambles where a player had only seconds to reach the next time control were terribly eliminated. The terms of the watch were that each player starts with 111 minutes on the clock. After each move 1 minute is added. After move 40 minutes are added. After move 60, 30 minutes are added. After move 80, 20 minutes are added. This meant that each player had 150 minutes or 2.5 hours for the first 40 moves. This was the standard time control for the world-class chess events. As we said, the match started in Sveti Stefan near Budva, an island of the coast of Montenegro. The match rules require a player to win 10 games, draws not counting, with no adjournments. After a player had won 5 games, the match would take a 10-day recess and continue in Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. Spassky at the time was rated 2,545, tied for 96 to 102nd on the FIDE rating list at that time, well below world champion and world number 1 Garry Kasparov, who was rated 2,790. Fischer scores of 7.5 out of 30 counting draws against Spassky gave him a performance rating of 2,645, which would have put him in the number 12 in the world on the July 1992 list. Yasser Servan believed that the match proved that Fischer's playing strength was somewhere in the top 10 of the world. Kasparov himself was dismissive of Fischer, stating that Bobby is playing okay, nothing more, maybe his strength is 2,600 or 2,650. It wouldn't be close between us. Jeremy Sliman wrote that Fischer's level of play was inconsistent, and games 1 and 11 were very high regarded, but overall the level of play was below that of the world champions match of Kasparov. Bobby won 10 against 5 in that match. After Fischer's victory, he proclaimed himself as undefeated champion of the world. His status as world champion in 1992 is not widely acknowledged. Both match locations were at that time part of the same country, the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, which was under UN sports sanctions because of Breakup of Yugoslavia. Fischer's participation led to a conflict with the US government, which warned Fischer that his participation in the match would violate an executive order imposing US sanctions on Yugoslavia. The US government ultimately issued a warrant for his arrest. After that, Fischer lived his life as an émigré. Fischer never played competitively again after the match and died in 2008. As for Spassky, this match proved to be his last major challenge. He continued to play occasional events, but never participated in the World Champion cycle again. I hope that you liked this episode. Write your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon. Bye.